I'd like to start with a very first question in terms of the IT department. So, has your influence changed over the last year within Kellogg's? Have you seen a shift at all?
So what I would say is how people view IT and view technology has changed over the last year through the duration of COVID. I think people have come to appreciate what the function does more than ever. But what I would also say, as I say, I sit on the executive committee for the last 7 years I've been at Kellogg. For all of that time, Kellogg has really taken technology seriously and understood the value that it is going to deliver as a function to our business, and it's invested quite heavily in technology certainly over the last seven years, more so I would say over the last 3 to 4 years. So in terms of how important we've taken it, it's not changed massively, but recognition of the real value that it adds and what happens if technology isn't there has really come to the forefront through the whole COVID situation, Chloe.
That's really interesting, actually, because maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe the role of tech hasn't actually changed, but like you say, it's the interpretation and understanding and acknowledgement of the work that technology does within a department that's changed, having that recognition from other departments and other business functions. So that's a really interesting point that I think you make there, Lesley. And you mentioned, obviously, 7 years, technology has been very important for the organisation. But what I'm interested in is maybe over the last 1 or 2 years, what new conversations are you having? What is becoming hot topics for you?
So even hotter than it's ever been is how we interact with our customers, but even more so with our consumers. If you think of what the whole COVID situation has done to us as consumers at home, it's changed the way we shop beyond recognition, and some of that certainly will stick moving forward. So pre-COVID, we were on an e-commerce journey. So whether that was direct e-commerce from Kellogg or e-commerce partnering with our customers, we were on that journey, albeit quite a slow journey. And if you look at the landscape now, that absolutely is something that's accelerated 183%. I think our sales through e-commerce has increased over the last 12 months, and certainly a lot of that will stay there moving forward. So how much we invest in digital technology from an e-commerce online perspective has significantly changed over the last 12 months. The second part that I would say has changed significantly is our investment and recognition of the importance of data. Obviously, everybody knows about data and analytics being really critical, but never more so in our current climate, in our current environment. So how do we become an insights-driven organisation? And then last, but by no means least, the third one is all around digital collaboration. So how do we use technology like this amazing platform that you guys have got to do virtual events? How do we use technology like this in our day-to-day life? Because one thing I hope is that we don't return to the way things were before. For sure, I'd love to be able to get into the office and have a coffee with some of my colleagues and face-to-face sessions. But I don't think anybody that I've spoken to over the last 12 months has any desire for it to go back to exactly the way it was before. So, every single morning doing a commute, sitting in traffic. If you're just going to go and sit on the phone all day. So how we collaborate digitally has really changed over the last 12 months.
Yeah, that's a really good point there. I think nobody is overly enthused, are they, about having to sit in a car for an hour and a half every morning and an hour and a half every evening trying to get home again. So like you say, hopefully that is something that has changed for the better for the future. We just need to make sure we're well equipped to deal with it going forwards for the long term. So have you recently been given more room to experiment as some of these things have accelerated within Kellogg's, within the global environment? And have you been given any more budget to manage this acceleration over the last 12 months?
So let me take the budget question first. So, I mean, the answer to the budget question is no, but I think we're quite lucky in that, for sure, we all have to manage within budgets. But I feel like we have enough budget in Kellogg to deliver our basics and do what we need to be being brilliant at the basics, and also being able to drive business value from the technology investments that we make. So no more budget. However, what I think the extra focus and recognition of the criticality of technology has done has meant that there's less challenge on the budget for the technology function, which I think may not have been the case had we not lived through the whole COVID experience over the last 12 months. So no extra budget, but equally no budget cuts. So I think that's really, really important piece to recognise, certainly from where we are as a function. What was the first question, Chloe? I forgot the first
don't worry at all. So actually it follows on quite nicely. You've got no more budget, but the question is, have you got more room to experiment with the budget that you do have?
So, I mean, yes and no. I think people are more tolerant of moving fast and trying minimally viable products. So, we shifted to like I'm pretty sure everybody on the call on this event we shifted overnight to everybody working in a remote world with Skype. And we were already on Skype previously, but we'd never tried it with that many people, and it worked well. It wasn't perfect, but it worked well. But people accepted that we move fast, we'll have a few bumps in the road, and we work through them and we get to a better place. So I think there's more acceptance that if we want to move fast, we've got to accept a few bumps in the road. In terms of being given, free rein on trying things, we still need to deliver a return and deliver value. So for sure, we can experiment with small amounts of investment, but if we're going to make a big significant investment, we've got to be pretty sure that it's going to return value to the company.
So tested first and then maybe scaled out if deemed successful and valuable to the organisation. Makes complete sense. Thanks, Lesley. So as I alluded to slightly in the introduction to your session today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about collaboration as humans and collaboration as departments and functions. And in particular, I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you're collaborating with HR at the moment and how has that changed in the last 12 months?
Yeah, significantly changed, I would say, in the last 12 months. So our collaboration platform now is Teams. So we migrated initially to Skype, and then we migrated to Teams in summer of last year. And that wasn't a technology project. I mean, I like to say there's very few projects that are actually technology projects unless we're doing a server upgrade. Most projects really are business projects that are enabled by technology. And the Teams migration, very, very, very much, it's all about people. So it was a business project enabled by technology. And because it was about people, it was very much Melissa, who's our CHRO, and myself working hand in hand to understand what did this journey look like for our people. The technology is one part, but the ways of working, the cultural changes, how people adopt it, very, very much was a massive part of that journey. And that was really successful. Everybody was virtual working anyway, and they had to adopt the very minimum of Teams in terms of doing video meetings, video conferences and chats. But we don't want to stop there. So we have a project called Catalyst. And this is very much in partnership with myself and Melissa. And this is around how can we continue on that journey of driving digital collaboration across our business and really getting value from it once the world is back to what the new normal looks like. And I would bring another two of my partner functions into this equation as well, if I may, at this point. So for sure, it's a really strong partnership between myself and CHRO. But the other two functions that feature heavily in this, and it is interesting because traditionally these would be four functions that you wouldn't necessarily put at the forefront of really driving change across our business, is our legal function and our corporate comms function, because us four really have come together in driving the whole digital collaboration piece. We've got a steering committee and we want to really make sure we don't stop at just video meetings, because, where's the fun in that? We can all do that now. What does the next step in digital collaboration really, really look like?
That's really interesting. I haven't heard that before, of those four departments in particular coming together to drive innovation through the business. Has that always been the case, or is this something that was purely born from the global pandemic?
What, the partnership between the four functions? Mm-hmm. Absolutely born from the pandemic. I had good relationships with those 4 functions, but in terms of us working really strongly together. And if you think about, I mean, the reason legal is in there is because if you think about the ethics around where technology is going moving forward, not least of all recorded meetings like this, if we don't get ahead of it, potentially it will come back to cause a challenge, further down the line. And especially if you're a global company and you're trying to deal with all the different regulations of what you can and can't do from a data privacy perspective around the world. So we had a certain amount of a partnership, but nothing like the strength of partnership that we need now. And then from our communications partnership, historically, if we were doing big events like this, we would bring in an audiovisual company, a professional audiovisual company to host these events for us. We have a lot of our own technology now that we can do that with. So that drives ever more need to partner between the communications department and the IT department to really come together. And we're in control of our own ways of engaging and collaborating with our global employees.
That's really interesting. I'm going to be controversial here, Lesley, and ask. It sounds like you're doing a great job, and that 4-way partnership is being really quite fruitful within driving that success through the business. But have there been any challenges along the way? Has the people versus technology question played out at all?
Yeah, loads of challenges along the way, Chloe. And I've referenced recording of meetings just in passing. That really has been a very contentious topic between us, the 4 of us, the 4 functions involved. And we all come absolutely with the best intent for Kellogg and for our people, but slightly different positions. We've got to a good place, but let me give you a couple of examples of where we differed. So we've got this amazing new technology, and we can record meetings, and my IT function work globally, so across multiple different time zones. So the benefit of being able to record meetings and then play them back to functions that aren't in your time zone was phenomenal, to name but one. So many other benefits as well. If I bring my HR partner in, and the culture that we're trying to drive in Kellogg around being open and inclusive, where that rubs a little bit is openness, conflict in meetings, healthy conflict, being able to have debate, being able to put issues on the table and really, talk about them in the room rather than taking them offline. There was a feeling that maybe that culture that we're driving could be stifled if people knew that a meeting was being recorded. And then obviously the legal element I've already mentioned from a compliance perspective. How do we make sure that everybody is okay with the meeting being recorded, that it doesn't seem like we're forcing people into something if they join a meeting and they weren't aware ahead of time that it was being recorded. So for sure, absolutely, we've had many sparky conversations, I would say, but we always make it better. So I talked about healthy conflict and debate being what the one of the cultures that we're promoting in Kellogg, and that's absolutely what the 4 of us have done over the last 12 months, is really have some healthy debate and get us to a much better place than if any one of us would have just run the show and got to where individually we thought we should be.
Yeah, no, of course. And because it is quite still a novel partnership, isn't it? I mean, 12 months in terms of a business life is nothing. So I guess you need that healthy conflict in order to actually make changes and advance and develop as a partnership. So that totally makes sense. Lesley, I'm wondering, so obviously it's still quite new to Kellogg's, this 4-way partnership that you've mentioned. How do you see the partnership growing, medium term, long term? And how do you see the collaboration potentially changing in the future?
I think it will continue to grow and strengthen as we move forward. Technology ethics, I think I mentioned it a little at the beginning. If you think about where technology is going, beyond just collaboration, so advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, recording, I read about a technology where you can have bots in a meeting to make sure inclusiveness of everybody in the meeting, and it might pop in my ear and say, oh, you've not included Jeremy in the meeting, Lesley, and I see that he's part of the team. Do you want to include him? And if you think about how invasive technology already is in our personal lives, and when that is coming into the corporate workplace, the ethics around that we've really got to think about. So on the legal side and the HR side, because it's people and technology coming together, I really see that is that's going to be a partnership that strengthens as we move forward. And then I've already mentioned about communication. You can't really collaborate without technology being involved and right in the center, and that will continue to evolve over time. So our communications will be very much at the forefront there, and in Kellogg, communication also looks after environmental and social responsibility, which is becoming an ever more important topic as well. And I know I got a little bit off piece with that, but an ever more important topic that is not just a good thing to do, but something that shareholders are demanding as well. And when shareholders demand things, we've got to be able to report on them. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to come back to technology to try to get an understanding from a data and analytics perspective. How are we really doing in that area? So again, that will strengthen the partnership with the communications function.
Of course. And a slightly strange question, Lesley. If you can imagine, if you put your future head on, do you ever see this partner becoming a 5-way digital partnership? And if you do, what other department or what other function do you think could really enhance what you've already established over the last 12 months?
I heard in one of the opening sessions talking about technology leading the way on a digital journey, and I see it slightly different. I've already talked about the partnership with my three of my colleagues, but really the whole of my executive committee, all of my peers, I see as partners in driving the way forward. So our e-commerce journey, it's not a technology project. It's about technology working hand in hand with our commercial functions and really driving our commercial business forward. We've got a big finance project going on at the moment around driving standardization across all of our regions. It's not a technology project, it's technology working hand in hand with finance. So I think really a CIO's role is to form really strong partnerships with every single one of their business peers, because I'll say it again, there's no such thing as a technology project unless it's a real hardcore technical upgrade. It's really about business projects and working hand in hand, collaborating with your business colleagues. Because if your internal IT function doesn't do that, our business colleagues can go externally, and there's plenty of consulting companies out there that would work directly and exclude the IT function. And then you get to know about it when they just come and say, "Will you put this new system on the network for me, please?" And that's really not the sort of partnership that you want.
No, of course. It needs to be. I mean, the key word is collaboration, as we've stressed quite a few times. Without that, it's never going to work as well as you might want it to. So I've got a few more questions for you, Lesley. We have started to get some audience questions in as well. So do not forget, in the audience, you have the chance to ask Lesley your very own questions. So please do keep getting those in over the next 10 minutes. But Lesley, I'm interested to hear now, if we could delve a little bit more deeply, what technologies do you see as becoming important to drive better performance and engagement from employees?
I think I would love for us to continue with video. I'm not quite sure, out in the audience, how much people are adopting video. But it was a real game changer for us. And in some ways, I think global companies that are not all based in one location, it's really leveled the playing field, having everybody in a remote environment where they're all on video, because literally everybody is equal in that environment. In the past, there's been maybe 5 people in a room in the head office, and maybe 1 or 2 people scattered around, and that's not a level playing field. So I would hope that we very much continue to drive collaboration with video at video meetings. And then the other element is, if you think of email, even the concept of inbox and outbox was based upon how an old-fashioned office used to work prior to any sort of technology. So an inbox and an outbox followed the same process, very linear process if you think about it. And all the collaboration tools now that we've got, I've mentioned Teams a few times. We're a Microsoft company in Kellogg, but many other solutions out there, completely changes the way we can collaborate. But it means undoing what we know about using email and sending files to each other, and really learning to work out loud, we call it in Kellogg. So how do we work out loud? How do we post something online and have a group of people participate all at the same time? So, multiple updates to the same presentation, multiple ideas, without having to follow an email chain. So I think that digital collaboration, I think is going to be a real game changer. If I use an example, one of the things that has changed, just going back to one of your earlier questions, one of the things that has changed around through COVID and technology and IT in Kellogg is technology would never have been presented in any of our global town halls. Global town halls were very much about business updates. We do get to present lots about technology now. So what's going on in the IT function, how's technology enabling the business, which is fantastic. And one of the things that I talked about at a recent global town hall was putting that presentation together in an old world of email would have generated, I think I worked out about 120 email for the few people that were involved and the different versions that we created. Wasn't a single email when we used a collaboration process. So create a channel, everybody can contribute at the same time. So, people say that email boxes are exploding through lockdown. If we learn to use collaboration tools better, and it's a massive change. I hated it at first. I think, oh my God, just got something else that I've got to worry about. So it really is a big mindset change, a big ways of working change. But if we can nail it, I think that is the way forward.
And I suppose it also helps the well-being piece, doesn't it? Because people are checking their inboxes less, it's managing stress levels a lot more. So the more successful you are with that collaboration, better outcomes for multiple departments.
So much better for well-being, absolutely. And then if you think a generation coming into the workplace now, they're not used to using emails. No. They're used to social collaboration online. So new generations coming into the workplace now, and we've got to do reverse mentoring. We've got to learn some of those ways of working from the generation that's coming into the workplace now, for sure.
Of course. I want to ask a question that is probably the elephant in the room when we talk about technology at the moment, and it has been for the last few decades. But really, how does the scenario that technology could have the potential to displace huge numbers of employees work with this need to be a social enterprise? And what does this mean with your collaboration with, in particular, HR, with Melissa?
So, it's not new news that technology makes processes more efficient. And in the past that's meant that technology has replaced people from a job perspective. It's not new news. It's been happening for the 30 years that I've been in IT, and I'm sure it will continue to happen in some way, shape or form. But what I see technology doing now, especially as it comes to anything around insights, data, analytics, I see it being able to push people up the value chain. So, we're all at a much reduced number of people across our workforce. How do we push them up the value chain, really help them in decision making, in fact-based decision making, with more certainty around the value that those decisions are going to make? So I see it more around how using technology to really elevate the value that people can add to the business, rather than it being a real cost saving, people out initiative. And that requires a really strong partnership with HR as well, because again, that's a culture shift, that's a talent shift, that's training people and educating people on how to be digitally fit. Digital fitness is a phrase that we use across Kellogg. So how do we train people to be digitally fit and really utilize the technology that we're giving, rather than it just be a cost out? Because growth is infinite. If we can use that value to drive growth is infinite. Savings are finite. There's only so much you can save in a business, but growth is infinite. So that's where I would really love to partner with HR and all my other colleagues to moving forward.
No, that makes sense. So it's all about, like you say, the elevation rather than replacing bodies, which is a really key message. Absolutely. I think.
Yeah.
And I have one more question for you, Lesley, before we move on to our audience Q&A. And this is slightly off topic, but as we know today, the 8th of March is International Women's Day, and I think that's really important that we touch on that quickly, and I understand that it's a cause that you support, and the strapline this year is choose to challenge. So in your opinion, Lesley, what can we do better in this space?
You know, Chloe, I just had a flick through the videos of the participants, and my reckoning, it's difficult just from looking at videos, but my reckoning is there's probably less than 10% of this audience today that are female, which clearly, given that female are 50% of the population, is not a great place for us to be. And for me, one of there's so many things. I mean, it's a topic we could talk about all day. But one of the most important things I feel is catching people either very early in their career or in education to help them understand their potential. You know, we've got to get people early, we've got to develop them early, and we've got to help them understand their potential. And we've got to get more females into STEM subjects in school. Because that's really the pipeline for putting females into technology roles moving forward. There's lots of other things that corporations like Kellogg can do to support that, obviously. But for me, I'm really, really passionate about helping younger children understand what their options are. And there's really no such thing as a man's job and a woman's job anymore. It's the world is your oyster. What do you want to be? And this is the best path to take if you want a career in technology.